it felt fraudulent. I felt so fraudulent. I was like, cool. All of that hard work, all that suffering, and for what? To be an actress in your own life, to be a fake.
What's up, y'all, and welcome to another episode of the Dope Life Podcast. Of course, I am your host, Coach AJ, and today we are talking about grief. Now, I have a very, very special guest in the building to hop on this episode, and I'm very, very thankful for them to come through. And I do have to introduce them but I gotta hype them up because I've been following them for a good minute, and I've been seeing their videos and their work. And look, let me tell you, after this, you gotta go and follow them. So please take a moment and listen and hit up my very, very special guest, Iman Gatti. Iman!
Goodness, that was gorgeous. Thank you so much. Yeah, I feel like I just want that all the time. Thank you so
Look,
much.
I gotta roll the red carpet for you. What you mean?
Fine. I'm really happy to be here, and I was so excited when I saw you putting together this season, and I was like, I want to be there with you.
Absolutely. Hop on. So welcome, and I'm happy to have you here. But before we get into it, tell the people a little bit about yourself and where they can find you.
Yeah, so fellow Canadians, and we were just talking, I'm in Alberta, Canada, and born and raised in Edmonton. You know, my family came from North Africa all the way over here for some reason. So here we are.
I love that one.
Could have grew up in the Mediterranean. No worries. So now today it totally blows my mind when I say this, but today I'm a 4-time published author. I've written my memoir, Cracked Open, Never Broken. I've written 3 kids' books, and I'm currently working on a couple books right now. I can't wait till those are done.
Yo, okay.
Yes, and I'm a professional speaker. I love, getting up there, speaking in front of groups. I love creating courses and working with corporate or doing any kind of private events. I love getting on the stage nowadays with the microphone, especially now that everything's back open.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things. And and I'm also a certified grief recovery specialist. So I feel like, it's like if you can't beat them, join them. I feel like my life was just so centered around grief recovery or grieving. And so I was like, okay.
And we'll get into it.
Yeah, we'll get into it. But it's like,
we'll get into all of that.
Sometimes you got to lean into the things. I find that so much easier in life if I just can stop resisting, just lean in and try to make something out of whatever I have. So I kind of feel like I'm resourceful that way, that whatever I'm given in this life, I'm going to make something great that I can, feel elevated by.
100% agree with you on that one. 100% agree.
Yeah.
And I think this is also why I like the power of the internet, because I've never met you.
Yeah.
But here we are recording an episode on a podcast where now I know, I got, I was doing my homework. I was digging in.
Were you? That's nice.
Yeah, I was doing my homework. I was digging in, because I think people sometimes don't look beyond the person of just that 30-second video.
Sure.
That we post. There's more to it.
Right.
So I was doing a little homework, like published author, speaker. I was like, okay.
And you're like, who's
on my podcast? Okay. I mean, all right.
That's awesome.
But also, where can they find you? Where can people find you?
I have my website. Everything's under my name, Iman Gatti. So IMANGATTI. And I love TikTok. I think TikTok's so much fun because, I don't know, they must have just mastered the algorithm because you just find all kinds of cool people. I'm on Instagram and Facebook too, under my name as well. But I find that most of my time and energy is spent on TikTok because I think they really, like I said, curate the people that, I like to see and that I hopefully like to see me. And I find that it's more about, there's a vulnerability to TikTok that I feel like it's not whereas Instagram, is all about looking a certain way. And I feel like Facebook, I don't even know what people are doing there anymore, but I think, I don't know anymore. I think they just complain. And every time I go on Facebook, people are mad. So I gotta go.
Oh, no. That thing. That was one app that I try to run from, I swear.
Yeah. And so I feel like TikTok's you can't get away with anything but, I think, authenticity and vulnerability. And so that's kind of, my basic feeling all the time. Is like, I'm not really good at acting. I'm not going to pretend. And I really want to reach people and talk to the hearts of people. So that's where I feel like we should connect.
Absolutely. No, I agree. So let's kind of get into it because, like, for me personally, obviously everybody's had some sense of grief, whether it's just, losing something or someone.
Totally.
And I think the older I got, I mean, when I thought of grief as when I was a bit younger, grief to me was just like, surrounded by losing someone.
Right.
But
that's what we kind of learn.
That's what you kind of learn when it comes towards grief, but there's more to it. There's so much more to it. It could be losing something, it could be losing your job or losing the ability to do something.
Totally.
Like, grief could just be so different. So like if someone is going through a sense of grief, like what's the first steps would you suggest to them? And I guess I don't even know how to say it. There's so many aspects.
There's so many. I love what you say because a lot of times people do. It's unfortunate that we don't learn more about grief growing up. It's in school. I think it should be part of the curriculum because every human being experiences it from the time you're an infant. So there's over 44 kinds of grief. There's not just death, but it's any kind of loss. Anytime you feel a loss. So it could be a loss of expectation, of hope, of your health, anything. So it's kind of an interesting, any transition in your life is going to have a grief aspect to it. Because and I think anyone can relate to this where you might be really excited about your new job. You get this really cool new job, but you gotta say goodbye. You gotta say, this is a new thing I'm doing. I have to move on from the other thing. So those transitions in life, people aren't really equipped, I find, to resolve it. So that's why I like to call it grief recovery, because we're not like muscling through it. We're not getting over it. We're just recovering. We're just kind of who we are on the other side of what we felt is a little bit of a different person. And I quite like that evolution of things. So yeah, I think there's so many different kinds. And the first step, honestly, is acknowledgement, I would say, like just being aware, being allowed to have feelings, because I think we also live in a world that doesn't have a lot of time for your feelings. And it's unfortunate because even though it seems very uncomfortable, and I totally understand that, we have this seemingly, we feel like we have a right to comfort that is absolutely not there. Like you don't need to be comfortable. It's okay. And that doesn't it's not a bad thing. You don't have to be less than because you're uncomfortable. And I think that makes people uncomfortable. They're like, well, I want everything to be great all the time. Well, okay, but life is not like that. No matter who you are.
Right.
No matter who you are. It's so I think the first thing for me is, oh man, I feel really crappy about this. This is a really thing that's not good in my life. Acknowledgement. And then, am I willing to be different about this? Like, there has to be a willingness. So whenever I have my clients, when I meet them the first time, I'm always assessing the level of willingness they have. Because a lot of times people will come to me and be like, all right, I got a problem. What are you going to do about it? I'm like, no.
Oh, yeah. I get that. As a coach myself, they're like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, like I don't have any more investment in you than you, right? Like that's because I believe in autonomy. I believe in consent. I want you to feel powerful and I want to help you access the magic you already have. There's no magicians over here. I want you to access the magic you already have. So I would say like just like acknowledgement and then willingness are really, and you only need 1%. People think you don't have to be like, yeah, I can't wait for this to hurt and feel better soon. Yeah. No, just 1%. Get in the car, put the key in the ignition, trust the tour guide, trust the map, right? Trust the GPS. Like that's it. So it's like, just get in the car, please.
That's the first step. Get in.
Right? Acknowledge that you have somewhere you need to go that isn't here. That you're like, I don't like it here. I want to go somewhere else. And then get in the car.
And it's very interesting that you say that because I think the first step that's why they say the first step is so difficult, because when a person's starting anything new or kind of, tearing down something that they've been doing, the same habits they've been doing for 20, 30 years, maybe more. I'm like, you're not going to be able to get it in 1 week. Okay.
No,
You're not
people get so gung ho that.
Well, sorry. I know you want that, but it's not going to happen in a week.
Yeah.
It's going to progressively take time. But here's the thing. You just have to keep at it. You have to keep at it. And each day, I love the way you said, just start with 1%.
Yeah.
Start with 1.
Yeah. Maybe you
bring it
get
up
to 10. I don't know. Yeah.
whatever. It takes time. Like when I tell people, I just did a podcast not too long ago, and he's like, "When did you start your journey?" I was like, 14 years ago.
Yeah. This is
14.
ever going, continuous.
14. And it
Yeah.
took me about 8 years to really realize, okay, this is just not working.
Right? I don't
Years.
like, yeah, it's
Like 8 to 10 years. I was like,
like we gotta stop looking at the finish line because that's when the lights go out. I think that
yes,
finish line is like, and thank you for playing the game. Game over. You know, I don't want that. So I'm never looking at the end. I'm like, okay.
no.
So today, like I call it taking an inventory. What's today's inventory? How's your mental health? How's your physical health? How's spiritual health? Right? How's your familial connections? Like what's going on today? And you know,
Right.
not every day's a good day. Don't worry about it. To me, if today's a really, really bad day, go sleep. Wake up tomorrow. We try it again. Get through today. Just keep looking. Like again, 1% in front of you. Just keep looking.
Yeah.
And the long way is the shortcut. I guess, you know, I watch people, and I do it too. We're all human. It's
We're human, yeah.
totally. You're gonna mess it up. It's okay. That's expected. That is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
If you're messing it up, that means you're trying. You're trying something. Isn't that beautiful? That's evidence. That's evidence, you know, your science experiment is working. It's just not working out right now, right? Like it's
Exactly.
doing science. It's just not the results you want right now. So we just got to keep going. And, you know, I think if you have tenacity, if you're stubborn, if you don't like being told what to do, if you're sick of being pushed against the wall, like me, people are like, how are you so resilient? I'm like, I am the most stubborn, defiant, like bullheaded sometimes person with my heels dug into the dirt. Some people, everyone has to get to a certain level of discomfort to move. You know, have you heard that, you know, that saying where there's a dog laying on the porch and this guy walks by every day and he's like, your dog is moaning. Like, your dog's moaning every time I walk by. And the lady goes, yeah, he's laying on a nail. And she goes, why doesn't he move? He goes, it hurts enough to complain, but it doesn't hurt enough to move.
Ooh.
Right? And like that, to me, sometimes it has to hurt so much that you finally move.
Yeah.
And for those of us who are any kind of traumatized, like I grew up with a lot of childhood trauma, we have a high tolerance for discomfort. And your tolerance doesn't need to be the gauge of what you should tolerate.
Exactly.
Right? It's like, so part of my recovery is always like lowering my threshold. I'm like, I just don't like it. I don't like it. I don't want to have to like, can I handle it? Yeah, you can handle all kinds of crap. I don't want to handle it. So yeah, it's such an interesting, wild thing that people always think they're doing wrong, but you can't do you wrong.
Can you just say that again? You can't what?
You can't do you wrong.
You
right?
can't.
You just can't be yourself incorrectly. If you are being yourself, it is not incorrect.
There you go. I feel like someone needed to hear that. That's why I asked.
Like I tell myself that all the time. I'm like, oh my god, why does this feel so resistant?
Because it's the truth though. Because as I'm thinking back to those moments where I would literally talk myself out of just being my best self.
Right.
Literally, like be like, no, like, and I still do it to this day, but this time I just catch it a lot quicker. I catch it a lot like on point, but there's moments I would say like, you can't do this because of this. You can't do this because of that.
Right.
And then like the other, I don't know what version of me would just kind of like, snap yourself out of it. You are more than capable to do what you don't think you are able to do.
Right.
More than capable.
And you're always like, I love what you said, like, you know, I still catch myself, I still do it. That's why it's, to me, also recovery. Because it's not a cure. No one's trying to be cured. You don't need to be cured. You're a beautiful person.
Yes.
You were here for a reason. I don't care what you believe in or who you thought, how you thought you got here. It doesn't matter. Honestly, don't need to know how you think you got here. You're here.
You are here.
So even if it's a fluke, even if it's like not special, like even if you're like, wow, it looks like we're all here, and I'm not very special. Sure. Okay. So take the pressure off then, if you're not that special. If you are that special, take the pressure off. Because you're here. You won the ticket. The golden ticket to the weird Wonka factory of life.
ticket. I love.
So it's like people are like waiting to be announced, waiting to be accepted, waiting to be, oh, why am I here? You tell us.
That's simple. You tell us.
Show.
You tell us why you were here.
Show us. The world moves out of the way when you start moving. That's just the way it goes. I used to wait all the time. I was like, okay, well, anytime now someone's going to come along and be like, hello, Iman.
You got to make them move.
Here's your mission.
I think one thing, like one of the for me, like when I first experienced sincere grief was a few years ago. And my godmother had passed. And the one thing that saved me through the entire process till this, because I still have my moments where I miss her terribly. Of course, like, she's been there since my sister was, I'm not trying to age her, but since sister was a child, like, and there's a 15-year age gap. So that's how long my mother knew her. And once I heard like her struggling and I heard what had happened, I said, you know what? I'm at peace because she's at peace.
Aw, that's nice.
Because there's no way I would want her to suffer and continue to suffer.
Mm-hmm.
And just so I can have her here.
Right.
There's no way. So the first thing for me actually to process that was it sounds so kind of crazy, but to look at the positive a little bit. Like, she's not in pain. And I had to accept that. Not every situation's like that.
No. And I love that because it's like, what is it that, like, I hear you saying how much you cared about her and how her well-being meant so much to you that you were able to look at that and hold your grief as well at the same time and say, this hurts so much. There's nothing I want more right now than to hold you and be with you and have you see you smile and laugh
and experience life still with you as I'm growing.
There's so many things we were supposed to do, and that's okay. Like why I love telling people. People always say, like, what don't you say when someone's grieving? What do you say, right? And the truth is, it's unfair to grieve. It feels unfair. It's sad. It's sad to lose people we want here. Yeah. And so you're allowed to feel like this is a really crappy hand and this is so unfair. And Absolutely. Also, this is how it is, and I understand this is how it is. You have to go now, right? Like my mother, she died like when I was little, and that it's not fair. No one should have to lose their parents at all when they're little. Like, you're supposed to be raised by your parents. If you have good ones, especially, like, it's kind of the plan. And it's unfair. And I'm really, when people try to tell you things like, well, it's God's plan and they're all in a better place, I'm like, get out of here. Get out of here. I don't care. I don't care about that.
You want them here. Yeah.
How dare you try to bypass my current experience so that I can get to the happy place so that you don't feel weird right now. I don't care about your feelings. I'm not responsible for your feelings right now. I'm in my own thing.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to be. So when people, I always say, like, just suffer with your friends and the people that you love. If someone's grieving and you want to show up for them, just suffer with them. Just get in they're in a hole, sit in the hole. They're like, this sucks, man. It's dark in here.
Yeah.
You want some snacks? I can get us snacks.
Not the snacks.
Right? You know what I mean? Like, what do you need? Like, I'll be sad with you, but can we have snacks? Want me to turn on the TV or something?
Yeah.
Shut up? You want a hug? What do you want? Okay.
What do you want?
I'll be with you. You're allowed to be sad. Like, I tell my kid, I got a 5-year-old.
No.
And I go, yeah, which is why, by the way, if anyone's watching it, my hands are blue because I did a craft this morning and I thought I would do
that for you.
And she just, like, squeezed out all the food coloring on my hands. I was like, that'll be great. I did my podcast this morning. That'll be awesome. I can't wait to look like a Smurf. So anyway, I was like, oh, well, that just shows the artist house that we live in. But, it's like I tell her all the time, I'm like, even when you're sad, you're beautiful and I love you. Even when you're mad, I always accept you. Even no matter all your feelings, I try to get her. So it's so cute because when I'm mad, she goes, even though you're mad, I love you. And like, I'm like, oh my God, that's funny. I'm like, thank you. She's like, I accept you as you are. And I'm like, that's all we want as human beings, don't you?
Absolutely. So if you're comfortable, we could kind of dive into
the story.
So I was again doing my homework.
I think that's so touching. Thank you.
Oh, for sure. Like, definitely. I was doing my homework, and like I came across, your videos talking about your situation, like your story. And before I get into it, I just want to say that I find tremendous strength within you, not just because of, you coming out of that, but because you have found strength to tell your story
Thank you.
and to help others. Because I think what people don't really realize is, and I know, we have pride and this and embarrassment, so we
Oh,
don't tell the story.
shame, yeah.
Shame and guilt, perhaps, right? But when you tell your story, you're not the only one that probably went through that or went through something similar. So you're helping many other people to understand, okay, so it's okay to feel this way. I can get out of this.
Right.
People could look at you right now and say, well, shit, I could get out of this easily. Like, if she's able to do, not easily, but like, I actually have something to.
It's possible, yeah. Like, it's possible.
Once I thought it wasn't impossible, but now it is. So I'm gonna leave it to you to go ahead. You could tell the story, and because I have a few questions to ask you.
Oh, wonderful! Yeah. No, I appreciate that for real, because I have to say that sometimes, I'm 41 years old now. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you a story about when I was a child. That was a minute ago. And a lot of times now, if I'm giving talks and I'm writing books and talking about it, I think if someone is new here, they might have a perception that like, oh, wow, they must be really healed because I can't do that, And I think to myself, oh my gosh, if I always want people to know that like this was unimaginable for me for a very long time to be able to share this without like absolute mental chaos. And you're always going to miss the life you could have had, like that's just, I don't know what it would have looked like. And I probably wouldn't have enjoyed some aspects of that too. But I was so ashamed of my story that it would be, I would rather leave this earth and tell anyone. I was seriously so ashamed. I had people come up to me after writing my book and after they go, I knew you then. You never told me that. And I'm like, I was a good hiding person. Like I was just, I didn't want anyone to know. Sometimes we're just too ashamed of ourselves. We don't want anyone to know. We just keep it to ourselves. So having said that, so my parents, I said they came from Tunisia, North Africa. My father was wanting to be a chef, so they moved to France, which is very easy to do in regards to language because French is the first official language of Tunisia, because they were colonized by the French. And then they moved to France, and then they moved to Ontario to have another son. So my first brother is born in Paris, lucky guy. Then the other brother born in Toronto. Then they moved over to Alberta, and they had me. And, at first life is simple. My mom was like super housewife, never had an education. She didn't speak English. She didn't know how to drive a car. She didn't ever work a day in her life. Like she was, I guess, happy to be home. That was her place in her life that she chose. And she married her next door neighbor and knew him her whole life, right? Sounds like a lovely story. And my father was very traditional. They were very religious people, Muslim. And my father, so he became a chef, and he was traveling a lot because he was kind of new to Canada and not getting the best jobs probably. So he was working away and he was gone a lot. So my mom was like this Susie homemaker, man. Holy, that house is up and down, spotless every day. The food is cooking, every meal, hot served food. Like, just such a beautiful way of growing up for those first few years. And I was her shadow. I was stuck to her like glue. And, she taught me all the basic things that I think are so fundamental to my being, because, children learn, really their self-esteem is developed and their sense of self is developed in the first 7 years of life. So if you can have that be very, accepting and loving and kind. So my mother gave me that, which are gifts that keep on giving. And, she was in a terrible situation with my father because he was a very violent person and he was very strict, and we would often witness the violence that he would subject her to, hitting her and yelling at her and just controlling her. Just not the guy that you want for anyone, right? Yeah. And he was like that to us too, just really strict and serious. And, anyway, so she found out he was cheating on her eventually. So she asked him to leave our home, which I think is just so bold. Like, it's so bold to do that. You know, I've met a lot of courageous people that have been abused, and I just can't. The stories I've heard break your heart, but to be able to say, get out of my house, when you don't have $1 to your name, English, you don't have a car, you don't have a license, like, you're in a country that you can't even read the signs, like, that is bold, that is courage, okay? So, sometimes I think of that and I'm like, damn, whew. You know, you might, sometimes she can get painted, my mom is like some, you know, like, docile, like, housewife, you know, because she didn't have all those skills, but I'm like, like, those spicy African women, I tell you, like, I think she was spicier than she can get looked at. But anyway, so he left our home and she let him have the key. She said, you keep the key, come visit your kids. I'm not trying to keep your kids from you. Like, that's not what I'm trying to do. I just don't want to be in the same house, in the same bed as you. So he would come by and visit, and he would come by and hang out with us, but he would also come by in the middle of the night, like after his night shifts or whatever, like eat the food, you know, that he paid for. Like, he felt very entitled, you know, to all of our things. And so he would make a mess. He'd come in our house in the middle of the night, eat all our food, leave the fridge open, leave the food everywhere, like, just make a mess. And so my mom would have to wake up to this disaster, and he just bully behavior. So because he moved out, I was like right up next to her again in her bed. Like, that was like one of my favorite. I was like, we're back, baby. You know, me and my teddy bears, I bring them all. I did. I was like 6 years old. I'm like, Mom, this house going. So she obviously let me. And then she would tuck me in and she would go finish her night, you know, like whatever, tuck in your little girl. My brothers are sleeping. That's it. And this one night, it was like the late June 1988. She, same routine, tucked me in, does her thing, comes back to bed. And in the middle of the night, it's like, you know, it's the first day of summer, so it doesn't really get dark too much anymore. You know, it's kind of just And so the light turned on in the bedroom in the middle of the night, and I just kind of looked up. It woke me up, and I looked, and I saw my father standing in the doorway, and I was like, oh man! Like, I remember thinking, I was excited, so I called out his name. I was like, oh, Daddy, like in Arabic, and then he shushed me, and I remember thinking, I just felt so much embarrassment. Like, I was like, oh my God, I almost woke up my mom. Like, I'm stupid, you know? And then I thought, oh shit, he's gonna kick me out of the bed. Like, I had to go to my own bed. So I kind of like snuggled up to my mom. Like, I just kind of like moved closer, thinking maybe I could get away with this. And he turned off the light, and I was kind of like, oh shit. And I kind of scooched over to my mom. And as my eyes were getting adjusted to the dark, I kind of saw something in his hand, like shimmering. And I was looking at it, and I'm like, oh my God. As soon as I saw that it was a butcher's knife, man, that man was stabbing my mom. Like, just crazy, just lost his mind. And it was so frightening. Like, your body just, it's so fast. You know, even when I think about it, I can remember it. I was almost 7 years old, so it was like 2 months before my 7th birthday. And it is like there, like I was yesterday, you know, it never leaves you. But it was so wild, just so unexpected and horrifying. And so I won't go into those details if anyone wants.
No, you don't.
No, but like, not for my sake, but just because anyone listening, I don't want to trigger anybody. But you know, it's in my book if you want to hear the details. But anyway, then he ran away, and I remember just looking out the window, and I watched him, like, because the window was kind of above the front door, and he just took off, and I was like, what was that?
What just happened? Yeah.
What was that? Like, it is the most uncanny thing to feel like lost like that. And it was so quiet that I thought my ears were going to start bleeding. Like, it hurt so much because it was so loud, right? Screaming and fight, like, very horrible. And then just like the weirdest contrast, like, just very strange. And then it got crazy loud again. So I remember being there, and I remember having this spiritual moment. I really stood there, and I was looking out the window, and I was like, kind of, now what, right? Like, it's so quiet. Yeah. I'm sitting there, I'm like 6. I'm like, what do we do now? And I remember feeling, and I don't know, it's like this very spiritual feeling that came over me that was like, everything will be different now. You are not the same. I was like, okay, no kidding. And then all of a sudden, boom, that was the last moment of like quiet in my life, for real. And the lights on the, where we live, like this crescent, like a cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
And all this, you just saw houses, boop, 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 all the light, like the porch lights, everyone came out of their house in their underwear and their robes looking around, like it was just, and then you heard sirens, like, and the lights, man, and it was just, now it felt like you were buck naked on a stage of the world, just embarrassed. Like the feeling of shame and like no privacy really hit me. Like it was a moment clearly that I don't want to share with other people at that time. Like you're just feeling like this is a kind of private family moment that I just don't want to be on stage about. And then yeah, the next thing I knew, there was so I went around the bed. I tried to wake my mom up. I remember not feeling understanding what happened. Like, I thought, okay, like, she's clearly hurt. But then, get up. We need you. Like, you just can't imagine you not have your mom when you're 6 years old. So I was like, all right, let's go, mom. Like, get it together. Like, because I watched my father hit her so many times off the chair, knock her down, knock her out on the floor. And, like, she always gets up. So, get up. Right? So then all of a sudden the police officer is standing there. I don't remember him entering the room. I just remember this man standing there looking at me. And he's like, hey. Like, this poor man. You know, you think of these people like, I'm like, this is your job? Like, whoa. Sick. Like, whew, you see a little kid like that's gotta keep you up at night. So he was such a contradiction because I could feel his energy being super tense, and this is a very strange moment. But his face was, and his voice was like afraid, like serious. But his face was trying to be so friendly so that I would go with him. Like it was, it was like it was like chapter 1 of the rest of my life watching people's behavior. It's like when I became like really interested in why people would look afraid but look kind. It was very interesting, kind of just all these different contrasts and dichotomies were happening while I was like looking around, and you couldn't believe anything anymore. Like that's what it also felt like. People were like, it's gonna be okay, and I was like, is it? Like, is that what you got from that? Because like I felt a very strong not gonna be okay vibe.
Yeah, well,
you know. So I just remember, and then after that was constantly lies, like having to decipher people's trying to make you feel better by lying. You know, people would be like, you know what, your mom had to go to the hospital, she's sick, and she'll be back soon. And I was like, really? She wasn't breathing. Like, that's
what you experienced.
Yeah, so I was very early on noticing that I made people uncomfortable. I make people sad. If I say the truth, people get sad. They get mad. They just want to live in a daydream. They want, your mom is gonna come back soon. I'm like, is she? That's a weird thing to promise.
Yeah.
Because, like, you shouldn't, I don't know, like, I understand people think children are not able to comprehend things, and there are children-appropriate ways to speak, you know, but
right.
I don't know if we're going, like, these lies, I was like, oh. So that just made me think of all these adults, and I was like, these people are liars, they can't be trusted. So obviously, they caught my father. Thankfully, he went to prison, and I was, you know, my siblings are orphaned, and we go in foster care, and that wasn't a good place because it was very abusive, and unfortunately, then I was subject for another decade to, like, the most disgusting, just horrible, all the different kinds of assault, you know, sexual assault and physical, emotional, mental, like, just. There were times where I was starved. I was like so underweight. Like I was fainting all the time. I couldn't get any food. They were just like they were so ill, these people, that they just kept getting more sick in their heads. And then I was stuck there. Like, you know, once you get into a home, it's so hard. People always ask, like, why didn't you say anything? Why can't you get out? And I'm like, you know how hard it is to get out of a foster home?
Yeah.
They have to all but kill you. Like, it is so difficult to get. You can't just be like, I don't like it here. You know, you can't.
Yeah, I want to leave. Yeah.
Okay. Like, no, it's not easy to place you, so they're not trying to find, like, it's not a hotel. They're not trying to find you the most comfortable bed. And unless you are you can show that you are being assaulted, like it's so hard.
I think what you touched on, thank you for sharing that, by the way. I
Yeah.
truly appreciate that. And I'm sure someone out there is appreciating that as well. But the one thing that I took from that immediately, what I connected with you is there's two things actually. Number one, you curling up to your mom. I remember sneaking to my mom's bedroom all the
Yeah.
time. And my dad worked late, so I would sneak in there just to,
Aw.
like, and
Yeah.
she would always try to kick me out because I have cold feet. So just me thinking
So
about
cute.
that, like just do something so innocent, so simple, like,
Yeah.
being for you to be stripped away from that is just heartbreaking. But that also, again, your strength of you telling that story, it shows. And as you said before, if anyone were to ask you if you were to tell the story, you wouldn't have said it.
No.
I think that is so telling because now it shows like you're like, no, I need to tell my story. I need.
Yeah. And I do need to. And that's the thing. It's like, and it's not for me that I need to.
Exactly.
Like, I don't need to do it. I could.
You lived it.
I
Yeah,
lived it. It's mine. You can't take it from me. I could have that story the rest of my life, unfortunately. But there came a point, after foster care, I'm thrown into the world. You are like expected to just be an adult. It's very strange. It's very strange to like be completely super traumatized and abused for your whole childhood almost, and then just be like, okay, well, it's up to you now, kid. You go get it. Like,
go do your thing. Yeah.
You want me to be responsible for myself now? Holy Moses! I was like, listen, I know I can do a better job than these crackheads. Like, that's for damn sure. But like, I was like, okay, well, anything would be better than this. However, what now? It felt so anxiety inducing and very stressful to be like, now you have to pay for everything. It's like, I don't need more problems. This is crazy. Like, I just kind of was hoping that it would lessen my problems, and it just felt like now all my problems were my problem only, right?
Right.
So I wish there was, just a side note, I wish there was like a little interim in between, like turning
the transition, more of
a like, hey, we got a year for you where the government maybe helps you just to like socialize yourself, like,
so you can understand the aspects of you being an adult on your own.
right?
I think the whole age out thing is ridiculous because
like, good luck.
how do you expect an 18? Me as an 18-year-old, there's no way. I would.
With like full support and love and confidence have a hard time. So never mind someone who's like.
That's what I'm trying to say. So like, imagine not. I can't even imagine not having that. So.
And you're just running and faking
that's
it.
why I don't think I think there needs to be some type of transition, which I think it also to start within schools, but that's just another story.
Yeah. It's like there's if anyone's asking us to, help the world out, we got some solutions, but
we definitely do.
Right?
We definitely do.
It came to a point where, again, just like what they said, when you ask me, what do I tell people, when I say acknowledge it, because I was running, I was trying to pretend, I was like, fake it till you make it. All right, I'm smiling, I went to college, I'm getting student loans, I'm working my ass off, I was working so hard, like, I had to work full-time job, I had to go to school full-time, I had, like, every crack of moment that I had was, like, doing something, so I'm just busy trying to stay afloat, basically, and every time it got quiet, I was like, oof. Like, I hate this life. I am depressed. I am spastic. I am anxiety ridden. I hate myself. This is awful. So I better drink. I better party. I better do stuff so that I can distract myself. And in grief recovery, we call it like short-term energy relieving behaviors. So like things that you do that take it away from your mind for just a little bit, like drinking, go to the party, having friends. For me, I was like chronically dating someone. Like literally, I couldn't even be alone. Like I was like.
And that's a thing that a lot of people don't even know. Like,
oh my God, if you know, like, I have absolutely self-harmed with men. Like, that is like a thing. And I was just like, well, here's my new one. Look at him. Oh, and he likes this and me too. And I would just like take them on. Like, I was like, that's my personality now. What are we like, Mom? I was like, what are we doing? Like, so that was weird. And then I just came to a point where I was like, at the end of the day, you know you're lying. Like when you
And
know
you're not lying to no one, really. You're
this,
lying to
yeah,
yourself.
it felt fraudulent. I felt so fraudulent. I was like, cool. All of that hard work, all that suffering, and for what? To be an
Mm,
actress in your own life, to be a fake,
mm,
your mom like suffered like this for what? So I could pretend the rest of my days? Well, I'd rather be dead. Because feels like dead. I feel dead, right? So I just like was so afraid, and all my life I had to go to therapy forcibly because like you're in foster care and you're traumatized, so they're like,
you
you know,
have to.
you gotta go, and like
Right.
it felt weird because all I could think was like, don't tell these doctors what's in your head, bless you, because you know they're gonna when they find out you're crazy, they're gonna lock you up. Like, so I was like, I'm great. No, all is well. And then I go home and I'm like, whew, can't tell these crazy people anything. So finally, when I was in my 20s, I was like, you know what? Let's find out how crazy I am. Like, I just want to hear a professional opinion. So I finally decided to tell the truth at therapy. And that was so beautiful. I was waiting. I was like, all right, these guys, they're locking me up. You'll never see me again. And they were like, my doctor was like, oh my God, sweetheart, yeah. You have PTSD, boo? I was like, a what now?
Yep.
Never heard it.
Yeah.
I was like, I have something? And they're like, got a few things. You got a few things, dear. And I made sense for the first time.
Ain't it funny how like so recently last year I was I was assaulted on my job and I was diagnosed with PTSD.
Oh my
The one thing I
goodness.
was diagnosed with was anxiety.
Yeah.
And when God bless my therapist,
All right.
when she broke it down to me, I was like, hold up.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I've been having this feeling since I was a whole child.
Right.
She goes, that means you've had anxiety since you were a child.
Like,
And I'm like,
had anxiety, and then this assault created severe anxiety disorder.
exactly. But the sense of relief. Yeah. I was smiling after that session. I was like, so that's what it was? Okay, cool. All right. Now I know how to like deal with it. But prior to that, I was like, what is this? It sucks.
You're broken. You're wrong. You're bad.
But to hear her say, no, sweetheart, that's anxiety. And I'm like, ain't that a blip? Okay, cool. I can work with this now.
You know?
Oh, what is one crucial step have you taken? It's like as an adult today.
Yeah.
To continuously healing, because I think a lot of people think that once we're healed, we're healed.
Oh, that's what I get annoyed with, because I think people think, here's your graduation certificate.
Yeah, it's not the case. You're actively always healing. So
constantly taking inventory, constantly looking at, constantly getting to know, because ideally you are changing in your life, right? Ideally, you got new like. It's weird. It's weird to say that because it sounds obvious maybe to you and me. When I meet people and they are the same as they ever, I'm like, okay. You're just, it's like glitch in the matrix over there. They're just like, Groundhog Day, same person, 10 years ago. I'm like, you're not doing anything. Those people freak me out, and I'll tell you why, because they're unpredictable. They look predictable, but they're not. It's like a boiling pot that has no air is allowed out. Yeah, like if you just like clogged up a teapot, a kettle, and you shoved a cork in.
Or like, you know when you're making pasta and you put that lid on and it just like
boils over.
Over. It's about to boil over. I know what you mean.
Yeah, and I don't want to be there. Like, it's those games, you know, where like it goes off, like the alarm goes off, you know, and you're like, I don't want to be around people that don't explore themselves. So for me, it's a constant. I'm always trying to be more of myself, because here's the thing: we're all conditioned all the time. That's what life, this weird place is. Okay, it's like however you grew up. Like I grew up, honestly, I feel like the benefit of having 5 families is so much better than having one. Personally, obviously, I'm biased because I can't have another life. Right. But I have to say that when I work with people and they have had one experience of one family, it's so much harder for them to see things differently because they only have one example.
They only have one aspect of the view of like how everything. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Interesting. So when I would go to a new home and I'd be like, hey guys, what are we doing here? Oh, here's how we eat at the table. Here's the rules. There's always rules at someone's house, okay? There's always rules. Everyone has rules. We don't say this. We don't talk like that. You know, whatever the rules are at your house. So I became like a chameleon, right? So I was like, okay, taking notes. I just want to fit in. I'm a little kid. I want to be loved and accepted and seen as part of something. So I'm like, oh, now we do this. Now we do that. And then now when I look back, I laugh because I think it's made me so delightfully interested in all kinds of people. I got friends that they're so bizarre. If you saw everyone I loved in a room, you'd be like, how? Is this a circus? What is this freak show? It's so beautiful because I can love people exactly as they are, even if it's different from me. So I think it's being really honest of like, I call it dating yourself, like getting to know yourself.
I've done it.
Do you like that because someone told you to? Or do you like that for real, for real?
Like, do you like it because you just like it?
Yeah. And like, what do you actually like? What are the things that you like, but you're kind of scared to say you like? You don't want to be rejected.
Societal pressures, 100%. Yeah.
Who would you be if you couldn't be rejected? If that wasn't impossible? Who would you be? What would you wear? How would you talk? What would you do? You know, when I look at children, I think, you know, even if you don't have children, because, you know, highly don't recommend for everybody, for sure. But, like, don't, if you don't think it's for you, don't do it, please.
Don't do it. Yes, agree.
It's mandatory, and it's certainly, I don't recommend it. Wouldn't change my life. I would go back and have her 7 times. But, like, I see people, and I'm like, oh, you should not have, no, you shouldn't. Don't do it.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody. Take your mental health and then stress it back down to 1%. Could you operate? No? Okay, don't do it.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No. And so I just think, like, if you look at children, and even as yourself, if you can identify with yourself as a child for a minute, what did you like to do? We teach kids that they should play, right? They should laugh. They should do art. They should dance, sing, fun, games. Okay, we make this. That's how kids learn, actually, is through fun and play, right? Then we get to adult, and what do we say? Be realistic. That's not going to work. We tell them for 18 years, man. We tell them whatever you can imagine. What do you mean?
Yep.
And then we go 18. We're like, stupid dream.
Can't be doing that no more. Yep.
Get real. Get real. No thanks.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't want to. I want to be silly. I want to dress like my inner child. I want to have my hair the way I said I like it. I want to love who I said I love. I'm not taking feedback. I'm not taking, right? Like, I'm not taking notes from people. So.
And to kind of piggyback off of that, like, I think that that's one of the, I would say the biggest leap I ever made within my journey is just tapping more into like who I was as a child and the things I wanted to do, but couldn't do because of, you know, that's weird or whatever. What I was told by my parents, and like to do that now willingly and freely.
Liberation.
And the best part about it is I have 3 nephews, seeing them do whatever they want, right? Being fueled by their parents. I just sit there at awe because I'm like, I'm so happy that you get to experience it that way. Totally. Like, I'm so happy that you get a chance. I have like a little basketball net here in my apartment.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and it's something I always wanted as a child. And when my nephews come over here, this is the first thing they want to play with.
Aww.
I'm like kind of healing that
inner child
because they're enjoying it.
Totally.
But since you've become a parent, you're a parent of a 5-year-old, and talking about healing, how has you becoming a parent healed your inner child? Experiencing what you went through. You know, now she's 5, so she's coming on the age of when your life changed.
Yes, I think of that.
In some way, like how have she in some way healed your inner child?
Well, I love that question and I want to answer, but first I do want to tell people that having a child is traumatizing as well. And I do, you know, because I heard before I had kids, people would romanticize it to them, like, she's going to heal you. And I'm like, oh, okay. And, you know, children aren't here to do anything for us. I really think we're here to do for them, right? So sometimes I watch parents and I'm like, you wanted her to do something for you. Okay, so she's 5. She doesn't have a bank account and she's only 5 and her brain's not fixed yet, you know, it's not finished. And, you know, so firstly, I want people to hear that having a child, whether or not you are mentally well, is extremely traumatizing. If you are traumatized yourself or recovering like myself, the things that come up when you have a child are shocking to your system, like everything, because you realize the severity and then you realize the worst case scenario if that happened to you. You know, you're like,
right.
You feel so unsafe having a child. Like, it's very like, oh my God, the world is scary and this is my beautiful, perfect little nugget and I don't want anyone to hurt this person. So there's that. And then there's the opportunity to lean into the health of this child. And that, I gotta say, is some therapy you can't get anywhere. And I don't use her for that, obviously. So
yeah, of course.
But I absolutely jump in on the opportunity to enjoy her first time around, for me the second time around. Like, I'm like, oh my God. You know, if you ask a kid, like, what do you want to do today? You know, she'd be like, we should have an adventure. And then we should bake something. And then we should paint.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, this is the best itinerary I've ever heard.
It's true, though. Like, it's absolutely true.
I'm like, let me write this down. So first, should we do that first? And then if you surrender and just say, like, screw being an adult today. Forget it. You know, within your means, okay? But don't be so damn serious. Like, for me, sometimes I say no. I don't even know what happened. I'm like, she's like, can we? And I'm like, no. And then I'm like, what's up my butt? Why did I say no? Mama said no for some reason. I said, you know what? Mommy said no I don't even know why. I changed my mind. I'm sorry about that. Let's go. Yeah, we can totally put on our pajamas and go splash in the rain. That's what you want to do? Like, one time it was pouring, like, crazy, crazy rainstorm, right? And she looked at me and she goes, should we go outside and splash in the rain? And my instinct was to say, no, I want to get wet.
Yeah.
I want to make a mess of myself. And I bit my tongue and I went, yes, indeed, we should totally do that. I tell you, it was a core memory, man. I never will forget. We went outside, we got soaked to the bone. She was howling. Oh my God, not one other person on the street, but every car that drove by, the smile on their face when they saw us being foolish like that. I said, look what we did. We spread joy everywhere. So I always look to her as my leader of joy. Like, that is, she's got a PhD in how to have fun. And so she's the fun person in our house. Like, I'm like, what should we do today to be just alive? Because I love that. Trained, right? Like, we're trained. I'm 41. I've been trained to be serious, like to be a responsible.
Of course, yeah.
So if the house is, you got a roof over your head, you got some food in the fridge, you got a couple bucks in your pocket, let's have fun.
Let's have some fun.
Like, who cares about? She doesn't care that the phone bill's due. She doesn't know what that's about. She's like,
what's that even about? Exactly. She's like,
get out and pick rocks.
Go outside and throw pine cones, like, you know, something like and it's interesting you say stuff like that, because I think that and the one thing I love about, I'm not a parent yet, the one thing I love about being around my nephews is they reminded me to just have fun.
Like, chill out.
Like, just have fun. Like, I'll be having the roughest day. I'll call my friend, like, the rough day. He's like, come by the house.
Aww.
Come hang out with the kids.
Yeah.
And I'll do it. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like,
you just melt, right? You're like,
forget how I felt. Because all I hear is auntie. And I'm just like, you know, it's funny. I went over their house the other day and I was getting it 3 ways from an 11-year-old.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God.
Like, eldest, middle, baby. And just auntie. Aww. And my sister-in-law's like, oh gosh, like, go save your sister. And I'm like, nah.
No.
Let me enjoy this, because there's going to come
this fun. Yeah. Like, don't say
come a time where, you know, they're going to be older. Let me just bask in this, because that was like the highlight of my day.
Right?
Like, just hearing, auntie, let me show you my drawings. Auntie, let me show you my Pokemon cards. And then the baby was just talking gibberish, but I didn't care. I was talking to him too. And they're
communicating something.
They're communicating something. And I find that you find so much. I know, look, I understand raising kids.
Yeah. Like, that's the thing. I just like to give a caveat. Like, I don't want to sell it. I'm not going to sell it to anybody.
I'm not. But I know, but at the end of the day, like, when I've noticed the joy, what you said, that resonated with me a lot, because you're right. Being in the position you are, you know, being grief counselor, author, parent, and just Iman, just simply existing as Iman.
Yeah.
How do you manage your mental health?
Ooh, good question. I think people talk of the word balance, and I can't stand this word. It really annoys me. I feel so less than when people talk about balance. You gotta balance. And I'm like,
you're not less than.
No, but like, because if I look for balance, then I don't feel good. It's never like I just
I get that.
Balance is like everything. It has a equalish weight, and you can, and it's like, no, you know what? I'll tell you, I am not a balanced person necessarily, but I am harmonious in that. Today might be all about work. Maybe I have a full ledger of clients and interviews and things like that. Cool. Then tomorrow might be just all Play-Doh and putting on my muddy puddle boots and going and splashing with my kid, right? Or whatever, building a snowman or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I find harmony. Like, so I think what, you're saying about your nephews and that, it's like, what's so joyous about children is that they keep you present.
Yeah.
They're not future tripping. That's our problem. That's my problem. I'm like, well, if I do that, I got a plan for 10 years, and then like, what am I going to do it's like, just today, we're playing with Play-Doh.
Present moment.
Right now, the muddy puddle. Right now, right? So for me, my mental health, like, I try to take inventory. Right now, what would be good for me? Right now, how do I feel? I need to maintain a harmony of connection and isolation. I love being alone. I'm an artist. I have to write alone in silence, right? Like, I don't need an excess amount of connection in regards, or otherwise I don't get to be me, right?
Right.
So that's the thing. So it's like, I might go through a week where I'm like, okay, I'm writing. I'm not really talking to anybody. I haven't called anyone back. I'm really bad at texting, so I'm not the best friend this week. The next week, it might be all about you. I might be the one who you can lean on. I might be, and then, right? So it's like, to me, I used to follow these people and like have these coaches and stuff that were like very privileged, okay? And like, so it was really hard to associate with them because I was like always less than in my heart. Like, I was like, oh, gee, that doesn't work for me. And it's like, you just need some white privilege and then you'll be fine. I'm like, oh, I can't get it. That's not fair. No one tells you. You're like, oh, okay. Or like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, they just,
I get that.
You try to like follow a recipe that you don't have ingredients for. It's not going to work out for you, right? You're like, okay, but they don't want to tell you that because that would be like, not very.
So some of that advice is coming from a space of privilege,
for sure. And so that's why I try when I have these questions to give people. I want to give you some very underprivileged advice.
No, but you know what? There's people out there that would actually very much appreciate that.
That's what I feel. Like, my clients, I'm like, listen, I have curated and created and accessed a lot of privilege now. For sure. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I'm not blind. I know. However, my mental health, I still struggle with that. Like, that is something I have. Oh my gosh. I got some CPTSD. I got, serious anxiety. I got ADHD. I'm getting diagnosed for autism. Like, I got some things in my brain that will rather. What I want people to do is make a life that works for you.
Period.
Don't try to be like, what you think it's supposed to look like is a joke. It's a hoax. It's a trick. Don't do it.
Yep.
Don't do it. Make your house, like right now, this last year, I've been about making my house mine. Okay?
Ooh, I love that for you.
Do you know what I mean? Like, because when you buy a house, like, I built this house, this is a beautiful house, and I just kept it like really gray and beige because like that's what you're supposed to do when you have a night. You know what I mean? Like, in my head, it was like,
I get my place, and I'm like, I mean, it's a bit of both.
So now, like, I did murals all over the front entranceway. I painted like the whole bathroom with like different faces, like just like weird. It's weird. I love it, and I want
that.
I was like, I want my kid to come home and feel like it's whimsical, like
home.
Yeah, and so like I gave her a pen the other day. She was writing on. I gave her a wall. I'm like, this can be your graffiti wall. You can have this wall.
Ooh.
Holy! She looked at me like, you could tell it just felt like so sinfully delicious, right? She's like, do it. And she's like,
enjoy. Yeah.
For my mental health, art, exercise, love, connection, solitude, health, like eating well, sleeping well, like those are the measures to me of like, did I laugh today? Did I eat well? Have I slept well? Right? Am I being weird enough?
That laugh one, people underestimate it. I tell people the the catalyst that was for me last year, like the final like tipping point was I'm not sleeping enough.
Mm.
So
Yep.
that one definitely. But I'm like, am I laughing enough?
Right.
Like, what am I taking in? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what am I watching? I call it like your mental diet. What are we listening to? What are we reading? What are we
Yeah. What are you
watching? What podcasts are
consuming
we
from
listening to?
everywhere?
Yeah, like what am I taking in? And I
Yes.
have to access it. And what I love about what you said is like you're finally making your home your home. Like I did that a few years ago.
Nice.
Drink. I mean, I had the time.
Yeah, that's good.
So I just made my place my home. So anytime, what I love about it is, and I always get it, and I toot my horn for it when people come in, they're like, your place is so cozy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's what, outside of the world is so chaotic.
Yeah. It's not home.
My place needs to feel my peace. I need to be
Right?
at peace here.
Yeah.
So everything in here, in some way, it may not be the modern type of way people do things, but
There's
I
a
don't care.
billion ways to do something. I
I could care less.
don't know.
It's a place, it's for me to lay my head every night and be like, it's my home. And I'm
Yeah.
happy with that.
Right? It's so
100%.
beautiful. And like, that's, your body is your home. And that's the thing. Your spirit, are you happy with it?
Are you happy with that?
Are you even listening? Because I bet it's
It talks to
beautiful.
you.
Totally. And so if you sit, as uncomfortable as it is at first, people don't want to sit still. I understand. And I'm not talking about meditating. If that works for you, go have fun. But like,
Right.
if you have enough mental issues like me, like it's too loud in my brain when I can sit kumbaya, I can't do it too much.
hmm
Tell you what, I can go for a walk. That's meditation. I can sit and look out the window and watch the trees and the, whatever. That's meditation.
Yep.
Like, right? Like I can go exercise, like go to the gym. That's meditation.
Yeah.
That's meditation. I love grappling. I love jujitsu. I love boxing. I
Ooh.
love, like, that's meditation, man. If you can be meditating and doing things, because if you got ADHD, it's just got the way it gotta go. It's not one size fits all. It's what do you need, my love? Because the end of the day, we're all trying to get our needs met. What do
Exactly.
you need? When I watch my kid, she's upset or she's having a bad day, I go, so what do you think you need that you're not getting? Because you wouldn't be upset if you were getting everything you need. So what can mama do or help you do or what do you need to do? And every day I ask them, what do you need? Sometimes the answer is silence. Sometimes the answer is connection,
Yeah.
right?
Of
Sometimes
course.
it's, like you said, laughing. Sometimes I need more joy. I need to be doing something. So yeah, I really appreciate this conversation because I think people, if you want to start today, is always a great day to start again.
Absolutely. I had a episode on routine. I was like, you guys need to understand
Yeah.
everyone's routine is different. Okay.
Totally.
Like my routine has joy. It has the peace aspect. But it works for me. And
Totally.
all I'm saying is create a routine so that it could further you. That's it. I'm not saying like it has to be
Right. Like strict, like this.
right. Like you look. I know that routine may work for that person, but it doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
Right. Like,
And if I could say to my younger self, like, child, do something that works for you, not that you see other people doing, and
Right.
you're wasting your time a bit. Just find the stuff that works for you. I would have saved a ton of time, but that's okay. I learned. And I'm cool.
the long
I'm
way
cool.
is the shortcut.
It's better than doing it twice. What if you could, and this may kind of like make you think a little,
That's okay.
but if you could tell your younger self anything at all, what would you tell them?
You're perfect the way you are.
Ooh.
I love you just the way you are. I love you just the way you show up, and the world needs your voice just the way it is, and your perspective just the way it is. And there are people in this world that the way you say it, the way you do it, the way you show up, that's the only way they're going to be imprinted on. That way. There are people who will only hear it from my mouth, and it will go in. Everyone's a teacher. And everyone has something to teach. And there are people, like, you've heard the same lesson 70 times from the same person, nothing happens. And then the next person that says it, you're like,
yeah.
oh, is that what it is? Oh, and your poor other teacher's like, I literally.
This, yeah.
But it's kind of like loosening a jar, you might yank on it for like 10 minutes and then you hand it to someone else and like, pop, and you're like, okay, I loosened it. So we all need, like, somebody's going to loosen all the rigidity in you that's going to make room for the
Right.
new way to become. And I think we need to give children and ourselves more credit for how important you are here. Like every day I tell my daughter, you're special because there's only one of you, just like
Mhm.
everybody else though. So like it's a humbling and a audacity. You gotta like have this like
Yeah.
you can only do the things you can do. It's magical, but also I always say I am no better than anybody else.
Exactly.
My love, I am no worse. And some of us, depending on who you are, you might have to hear yourself deepen into the you're no better than anybody. And some of us, which I run across most frequently, are people who really need to hear you are no worse. Get up.
Get
Lift your chin.
you
Stop
were.
it.
Oh,
Right? It's like
no.
you're
Yeah.
walking around thinking you're less than because you had, like me, you were orphaned, you were abused. Those things happened to me. I did not choose those things. Those things didn't make me who I am in my soul. My soul came here first. And it's like the book I wrote. I look at it like a book. Like people say, oh, sometimes you talk like it's not you. And I'm like, well, that was a version of me. You know how many funerals I've been to myself? I have been to hundreds, thousands of funerals of my old self so that I could attend the birth, right? So I could go to the birth of my new self. So like sometimes you're in these phases where you're at your own funeral because that's the person you don't need to be anymore, but the person brought you here. They just dropped you off. They're like, this is as far as the ride goes, boo. Get out. And you're like, oh, I liked you. And you're like, you gotta
This is
grow.
it.
Move.
You got to come home. Yep.
Go give birth to yourself now. And you're like, and you're like, it's stressful. It's hard. It's not easy. Nothing's easy, but you can do tough stuff. There's my kid. I'm like, ooh, tough chick. That's her nickname. Tough chick. Tough chick. But you don't like. It's not like I tell it you have to be tough. You are tough.
Right.
You just are. You are more powerful than you realize. You are more resilient than you could ever imagine. You are full of softness, and you're tough. Like I want a soft life because I know how tough I am. I don't need to fly. I'm ready for the hammock and somebody feed me grapes now. Like, that's it. I'm ready for the hammock. I'm ready. Like, that's it. I know how to use my sword. I'm tired. Come massage my back.
So I ask everyone this question. Oh, Lord. I made it. I ask everyone this question. What makes you feel the most dope? So, like, what makes you feel like the best? Yeah, I know. What makes you feel like the best version of yourself? Like, what makes you feel dope?
That's amazing because I think my first instinct is when my daughter, the way she talks to me, like, my daughter, it makes me feel dope. Like, like yesterday when she said, she goes, Mom, I just love you all the time any way you are. You're the best mom that I could ever have. And I'm like, well, that's sweet because you only had one. So, like, I won.
Yeah.
Champion, I came in first out of one. But watching another person who, for me, wants to, she always says, I want to be like you. And I go, my God, you're so much better than that. And I want to be like you. And she goes, really? I go, oh, there's only one of you. So I think when I feel the most dope is when I'm connected to my kid, first of all. But aside, if I had to, like, okay, don't answer about your kid because that's kind of like obvious or whatever. When I'm proud of myself, when I'm being myself, when I'm dressed like my inner child, when I have, like this morning I cut my own hair, I just chopped it out. I was like, I just gotta like be me. And so when I look in the mirror, when I was a little kid, I used to like not like myself, and I always said to myself, when I grow up, I just want to be happy, and I think success is that you enjoy your own company. And I never could sit still with myself very long, like I shared. So now when I feel the most dope is when I'm like, I'm just me and I'm happy about it. Like, I'm okay with it.
It's just existing.
I'm existing. I don't want to be perfect. I want to be acceptable to me. So that's when I feel the most dope.
I love that. Iman, thank you so much for taking the time. Can I have you back on another episode? I think it would be absolutely.
I think we could talk about 80 things, right?
I mean, yeah, 100%. Like, I would love to have you come back. All right, y'all, please go ahead and follow Iman. Like I said, I'm going to put all the information in the description below. Thank you all for tuning into another Dope Life podcast. And go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Again, I am your host, Coach AJ. Stay dope and walk with peace.